Ziaire Williams Jr., born September 12, 2001. Today's feature is the story of Ziaire Williams, a player that seemed he had most of the tools necessary to be successful in the NBA, but was that all just a facade and overrating of his potential? Potential is a serious word in sports, specifically basketball, where so much of the game happens off the court and before a player even shoots his first shot. Along the journey to the NBA, so much of it is not guaranteed on the player's side and for the programs and teams who end up passing through. With that said, both sides have to use their best assumption of how things will play out, and for NBA teams, they have the unique ability to use a player's past experiences on and off the court to see and judge whether or not the player would be a good fit for their team. Being correct on a player's potential can mean he turns out a bright spot for the team, but also whoever's responsible for getting his evaluation right. The process of predicting essentially is long, takes a certain eye for talent, and being realistic and objective no matter how much you favor one guy over the other. Every year, NBA teams make big business decisions based on what the player could be for them during the draft process, hoping to select the next big thing that no one else saw coming. Coming into the 2021 NBA draft was one of the most difficult years to evaluate potential on the college level, seeing as it was coming off a COVID year in the NCAA, where so many factors went into the final performance of the players a team could have an eye on. There were no fans in the seats, which could have made things easier or more difficult for the player, which is an obvious shock when they get to the enormous crowds at an NBA game, causing them to play worse or much better in the new setting. There were less games than usual, and pre-draft workouts had to be adjusted from normal procedure, creating an uncharted experience for evaluators with the high potential to be wrong about a player's potential. Ziaire Williams left Stanford after just his freshman season, where in 20 games he was the third leading scorer on the team at 10.7 points per game. The two players ahead of him, both 6'9" forwards with experience, although none were drafted. He led the team in turnovers despite being a wing and averaged more of those than assists, and was one of the worst three-point shooting prospects in the draft at 29%, all on a team that went 14-13 on the season. Yet potential based on what he did prior to college as a McDonald's All-American with Kevin Durant comparisons won over again. He was taken 10th overall, but since then it's been a 3-year waiting game to see Ziaire Williams unlock that treasured potential. For these reasons, he just may not have the keys to do so. What happened? Let's talk about it. Salute to If Heaven Was Human on IG for this request. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth. Let's get it. Take a minute to like, subscribe, and comment on who I should do next. Ziaire Williams is a 6'9" small forward from Lancaster, California that was an incoming star as a freshman in high school for Notre Dame High, averaging over 13 points and nearly 7 rebounds per game. He really exploded onto the scene as a junior, coming off an injury-plagued sophomore season, upping his averages to 27 points per game, 10 rebounds, and 3 assists. As already one of the best high school prospects, he decided to challenge himself and transfer to Sierra Canyon in LA, playing with future NBA players Bronny James and BJ Boston. In limited games due to transfer rules, he averaged 15 points and 8 rebounds, but was still named the Player of the Year in the CIF by the LA Times and selected as a McDonald's All-American, although the game was canceled due to the pandemic. He was a top 5 recruit by 247 and number 3 small forward by ESPN, with his choice of school to attend going into college. He chose Stanford over Arizona, UCLA, and USC, where he could be a factor from day one. Stunt number 1, lack of development. In the story of potential, one fatal element that can cause scouts to get it wrong and a player to miss on his potential is him not developing certain skills expected over time. Ziaire Williams is an interesting case because he's a 6'9" player that can handle the ball like a guard at times and has an elevated shooting stroke that for the most part looks structurally textbook, like it can develop into a nice shot at some point. In high school, it was one of the aspects of his game that had scouts keen in on his potential and versatility, having a solid foundation to work with. But since high school, his long-range shooting has been under 30% in places like the Nike EYBL in 2018, where he shot 20% from 3, 28% in 2019, and 27% in the Under-19 World Cup in 2019. In college, his shooting was actually a concern in hindsight, seeing he shot just 29% from 3, the lowest on the team of any player playing at least 15 minutes per game, once having an 0 for 11 three-game stretch. But scouts invested heavily that with his foundation and better training on the NBA level, he could develop a point of his game crucial to his value as a player, and that never happened. In 3 seasons, he shot 30% from 3, 25% in an injury-plagued year 2. One main concern for scouts and point of weakness was him developing the strength to physically play the wing position in the NBA, and that too has yet to materialize. He still shies away from contact on offense and is easily moved around on defense while not providing much as a rebounder and shot blocker. His ability to develop into a point forward on-ball creator as the Grizzlies hoped and attempted to do beginning year 2 in the Summer League failed as he struggled under pressure creating for himself or others, causing him to lose confidence. So he was left in a role of spot-up three-point shooter that only worked when Ja Morant was feeding him, but with Ja out much of the time and his skills not taking a leap forward, the Grizzlies gave up on the process. Stunt number 2, not much else. If Ziaire Williams isn't scoring or being a versatile wing that can stretch the floor, what else does he bring to the table at a high level? Another hope was defensively he could be a wing that has the length to guard smaller players and to contest the shots of bigger guys as well, but in those aspects he's shown to not have the foot speed, anticipation, or IQ for that to be a readied skill in time. He also plays to avoid contact naturally no matter which end of the floor, so with him being as skinny and light as he is, it's hard justifying playing him for long spurts at a time. As a career 20 minutes per game guy, he's averaging 0.2 blocks, 0.6 steals, and 2.6 rebounds over 150 games in the league. His lack of development in size and strength causes him to be a non-factor as a slasher or mid-range threat as well. He is streaky, so every so often he'd have a game where his shots are falling, opening up other aspects in his game, but overall I think a huge stunt in his potential is it's just not enough anywhere on the floor. He averaged pretty much the same across the board in 3 years with the Grizzlies, with no significant improvement in any of the skills he was supposed to become great at, and it leads to questions of how much that can develop now after being traded to the Brooklyn Nets. With a budding roster in Memphis, guys like Gigi Jackson and Vince Williams Jr., both already looking better than Ziaire Williams ever looked, and his value not expanding past potentially being a decent scorer, makes it easy to see him having a journeyman career or worse, be out the league sooner than expected. Stunt number 3, injury plagued. The worst thing for a player to be ruled as is injury prone. Ziaire Williams isn't quite there yet, but he has missed significant time over the last 3 years to at least cast doubt on the fact he will ever play a full season, much less at least 65 games, something he hasn't done so far. As a rookie, he missed 14 consecutive games beginning December 8th to January 3rd because of an ankle injury. This was in the middle of an 18-game stretch where he played just 1 game. We mentioned him missing most his sophomore season in high school due to an injury, then in college struggling with a knee injury that had him heavily braced most games, now in the NBA where injury is again preventing him from having the health to get out there and train or be in situations on the court he can grow. The best teacher is experience, and if he can't get on the floor and keeps having to play then stop, his potential will definitely be stunted. Then, beginning his second season 22-23, he missed the first 24 games because of knee tendonitis, something that affects 30% of NBA players who mostly play through it, but not Ziaire. He missed pockets here and there all season and was never truly healthy, seeing his averages dip drastically across the board. In 23-24, he played 51 games and did not dress for the final 21 games. Not saying he's soft, but his body shows signs it's not equipped to make it through an NBA season. All in all, Ziaire Williams has a huge year in Brooklyn ahead of him. He'll need to show he can stay healthy first and development in his game all around to avoid being out the league and a bust after his rookie deal. He does have some tools, but for these reasons, his growth is being stunted. Salute, much respect. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth, and I'm out.